Lisa's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the kitchen counter. The cool marble beneath her fingers was the only solid thing in her world. Behind her, Ethan's voice grew sharper, slicing through the silence like a blade. "You're useless, Lisa. Can't even make dinner right." She knew better than to answer. Years of experience taught her that silence was safer. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the weight of the last 6 years pressed heavier on her chest. She wasn't sure when the love had turned to fear. The first time Ethan apologized after screaming at her, he brought roses. The first time he grabbed her wrist hard enough to bruise, he swore it would never happen again. The first time he hit her, he cried harder than she did. Lisa had believed him every time. Till now. The breaking point. A loud crash jolted her back to the present. The plate she had been washing slipped from her hands, shattering on the tile floor. She flinched instinctively. Ethan turned, his jaw tightening. Lisa barely had time to brace before his hand lashed out, knocking the remaining dishes off the counter. The sound of glass splintering filled the air. "Clean it up," he ordered, voice cold. Lisa swallowed the lump in her throat and bent down to pick up the shards. Her reflection stared back at her from the broken pieces. Who was this woman? When had she become so small? Then she saw it, a deep gash on her palm where a sharp edge had sliced through her skin. The sight of her own blood sent a wave of nausea through her. For the first time in years, anger stirred within her. Not at Ethan, at herself. She had been bleeding for years in ways no one could see. And she was done. The escape plan. That night, Lisa didn't sleep. She waited until Ethan's snores filled the bedroom before she slipped out of bed. Her heart pounded as she tiptoed across the room, retrieving a small backpack she had hidden weeks ago. It wasn't much. Some cash, a change of clothes, and the phone she had secretly bought and hidden in the bathroom cabinet. As she reached for the doorknob, the floor creaked. Lisa froze. Behind her, the rustling of sheets. A deep inhale. Then silence. Seconds stretched into eternity. When she heard his breathing even out again, she exhaled shakily and slipped out into the night. She didn't look back. A safe haven, or so she thought. Lisa found refuge in a women's shelter across town. The staff welcomed her with quiet understanding, offering her a bed, warm food, and, most importantly, hope. For the first time in years, she felt safe. But Ethan wasn't finished with her. Days later, Lisa received a text from an unknown number. "You think you can run from me?" Her blood turned to ice. Had he found her? That night, as she lay awake in the shelter, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. Lisa held her breath. The footsteps stopped outside her door. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed the shelter's emergency line. Just as the call connected, the footsteps retreated. The next morning, the staff confirmed her worst fear. Ethan had been outside watching the fight for freedom. With the help of an advocate, Lisa obtained a restraining order. But legal protection was just one step. The real battle was inside her. Healing wasn't instant. The sound of breaking glass still sent her into panic. She still woke up expecting to see Ethan's shadow looming over her. But she fought back. Therapy helped her reclaim her voice. A support group reminded her that she wasn't alone. Slowly, she built a life of her own. And one day, as she stood in front of a mirror, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. Herself. A message of hope. Years later, Lisa sat across from another woman in the shelter. The same place that had once saved her life. "I don't know if I can do this," the woman whispered, voice shaking. Lisa reached across the table, taking her hand. "I thought the same thing," she said, her voice strong. "But you can. And you will." Because Lisa wasn't a victim anymore. She was a survivor.